Well, would you look at that? The Falcon and the Winter Soldier is finally out. Let's take a look at how that's going. Of course. You had one job. Deliver an interesting story with fan-favorite characters from the MCU. But no fun allowed in 2021. So are you ready for some browbeating in your escapist entertainment? Buckle up, cause here we go. In the lead up to this masterpiece of a scene, Bucky takes Sam to see an old acquaintance named Isaiah Bradley. If that's the first time you've heard of the name, don't be surprised. He's not an A-list superhero by any means, and only the most dedicated comic book fans would know about him. He's a super soldier known as the Black Captain America. And as you're about to find out, instead of giving the character his due, he was absolutely wasted in this episode and used as a token. They go to Isaiah for some information, and it's made clear that he and Bucky have fought in the past. And Isaiah beat the Winter Soldier so badly that it took half of his arm off. Apparently, he was so powerful and dangerous that even Hydra was afraid of him. And for his courage, he was awarded by being sent to jail for 30 years. Isaiah says he wonders if Bucky was there to kill him, and Bucky replies, "I'm not a killer anymore." To which Isaiah says it doesn't work like that. Well, maybe it does for folks like you. Oh yeah, they're going there. Have you checked your white privilege lately? You know, the same white privilege that Bucky had when he volunteered to fight in World War II. The same war in which he was captured and tortured. Afterwards he lost his arm, and then the fun began when he was turned into a living weapon, being forced to carry out assassinations, having his mind wiped on a regular basis and put on ice like some kind of human popsicle. And on top of that, he had to live with the guilt because he remembered everyone he was forced to kill. Sounds awesome! Where can I get me some of that privilege? By the way, how degrading is that all for Isaiah? Absolutely no info given on the character, except that he's stronger than the Winter Soldier, that he was a hero, but he was sent in jail for 30 years because he's black. Give me a break.
No, what the heck, I'll laugh anyway.
And how exactly did they manage to send Isaiah to prison in the first place? How did they manage to keep him there, considering all the necessary things they had to do to capture and restrain Bucky, and that an entire elevator full of specialized SHIELD agents that came prepared with equipment could not restrain and stop Captain America?
Am I so out of touch? No, it's the children who are wrong.
By the way, for all of this to work, you have to ignore the MCU movies, because the Black Widow dumped SHIELD's and Hydra's secrets onto the internet. And in those classified files, there's bound to have been at least one mention of Isaiah. Just saying. But I digress. They get out of the house, and Sam gets on Bucky's case how there's been a black super soldier for 30 years and no one knew about it. Because it doesn't matter that there was another super soldier out there. What matters is that he was black. I don't know. You tell me. But never mind that. Brace yourselves, because we're about to hit peak stupid with full force. Just as they're having the conversation, the police show up. And they ask for their IDs. So instead of doing, the responsible thing and passing their IDs to the police, Sam starts to get iffy about it. And now, one of the dumbest things I have ever seen in a Marvel TV show or movie happens. The cop turns to Bucky and says, "Look, is this guy bothering you?" Yeah, I'm not joking and you're not dreaming. The police just racially profiled the Falcon. This is one of the two reasons I have the pillow. Speaking of, excuse me for a moment. That's pretty much the equivalent of Michael Jackson and Freddie Mercury having a conversation on the street in the 80s and a policeman walking over to Freddie Mercury and saying, "Is this black man bothering you?" That is some eye-rolling cringe right there. Speaking of which, you know I can hear your eyes rolling to the back of your head like the ratchet joints on an action figure, right? And given how the police are portrayed these days, I'm actually surprised that they bothered to stop and talk to them instead of just going, "Look, Officer Jones, a black man, ramming speed!" And of course, both the cops are white because you know the drill. Police be racist and white people be racist. Never mind, by the way, that for all of this to work, you have to ignore that Sam and Bucky are probably two of the most famous people on the planet. For starters, I already mentioned that Black Widow leaked the SHIELD and Hydra files online. Bucky, specifically, has been the target of an international manhunt, meaning across the entire planet, after Zemo framed him for the bombing, and Scott Lang, who spent a long time in jail, knew who the Falcon was, and had a fanboy moment when he met him on the roof of the Avengers headquarters when he went there to steal a part for Hank Pym. Sam was in the news recently when he gave a speech when he gave over Captain America's shield to the Smithsonian, and even the writers of the show knew how stupid it is for the police to not recognize a member of the Avengers, so they had the cop go, "Oh, sorry, I didn't recognize you without your glasses on." Now there's a rumor going around that almost 80% of the show's viewer base tuned out after that scene. I don't know if that number is true or not, but I can confirm one thing. No one I spoke to about that scene had anything positive to say about it. On a side note, they did the whole thing where Falcon takes Captain America's mantle in the comics, and it's actually pretty dumb. The Falcon is a flashed out character. He's an interesting character, and he's more than good enough on his own. And he's been a part of comics for a very long time. And the shield doesn't mix well with his power set, him using a flight suit with giant wings and all. And we see that Sam doesn't really need the shield in the first 10 minutes of the show, where there's a very well done fight scene that takes place in the air, where he uses his flight suit, whose wings can be used as a functional shield. He has Red Wing, who's got a built-in laser, a Gatling gun, and rockets that can take down helicopters. He also has equipment like a grappling hook, and he's a very capable hand-to-hand combatant. So excuse me if I can take the Falcon seriously enough without him being called Captain America and essentially wielding an overhyped frisbee. And speaking of the overhyped frisbee, it's handed down to John Walker, who picks up the mantle of Captain America. In the comic books, he's known as US Agent. Now, the show is trying to make you not like this guy and sympathize with the bad guys who are super soldiers who are apparently trying to do the right thing. By the way, they come equipped with their own agenda, mask, symbol, and slogans. Yeah, I know. Now, during the show so far, Bucky and Sam have been dismissive of him despite him trying to work with them. And he's shown as being actually quite capable. But of course, you're not supposed to like him because in a fit of rage, he pummeled the guy to death with Cap's shield. Now, would Captain America do that? Absolutely not, but Captain America's no saint and he'd be the first one to admit that. You see, what led up to that event was that John, Bucky, and Sam were fighting the bad guys, who are, by the way, super soldiers, and John was about to get stabbed by the very same bad guy that threatened Sam's family earlier, by the way, and his friend and war buddy interfered, saving his life from a shanking. As a result, the bad guy punched his partner so hard that he almost went through a column, and that killed him instantly. John gave chase to the bad guy who was holding him, who, by the way, during the pursuit, threw a concrete garbage can at him. And when John caught up to him, the bad guy started saying, "It wasn't me." Again, this dude was holding him as he was about to get stabbed. So John loses control, bludgeons him to death with the shield, and we see this slow motion of his hand hitting the ground as he's dying. In the same time, the woman who was about to stab and presumably kill John is watching from the crowd with a horrified expression on her face. Now, I get that this is supposed to be somehow very bad, but I have a question. What would have happened to this guy's head if he didn't duck? I can imagine it would have been something like this, given that the shield was thrown with enough force to go clean through the glass and embed itself a third of the way in what is essentially a metal plate. So I doubt a human skull would have offered more resistance. But I digress. The creators of the show must think we're pretty stupid to buy into all of this. And after that police scene, I went through the rest of the episodes on autopilot. And quite honestly, I have no desire to finish the show. I'm watching this for entertainment, not to be browbeat by identity politics. And at this point, given everything that's been going on in comics and movies and pop culture in general, I so much as smell that garbage, and I'm out. No benefit of the doubt here. Not anymore. So let me know what you think about the show so far, especially that cringy scene with the police. And I'll see you around.